Well, I got started as a fisherman simply because my dad was a fisherman. So was my grandfather and my great-great-grandfather. The bigger boats were coming in closer to our shoreline, taking massive amounts of fish, fishing 12 months of the year. Some of those foreign countries with big factory freezer trawlers.
Well, it seems to me it was a gradual thing, right? Because, you know, like I say, because when you think, like, you know, for 100 years, for 150 years, the European interest and activity in Newfoundland was a migratory fishery, right? So basically, boatloads of men came over in the spring, fished, and went home, right? So there was no, you know, there were a few early colonization attempts in the mid-16th century and whatever, but there was really not much, you know. And so for a long time, the European presence was, I suppose you could say, ephemeral or whatever, you know, just on the edges, on the outskirts. So that, I would say that had little impact on Beothuk life.
And then about 1726-27, there are reports of killings of Beothuk and of hunters further in the interior.
The word Beothuk actually comes from a lady by the name of Demasduit, who sadly known more for her European name, which is Mary March. And she said the word means people. And usually they were nomadic, so they would come to the coast in the spring and the summer, and then they would move back inland in the late fall and winter season. They were basically a tribe that relied so heavily on the coast. And with the rapid settlement of Newfoundland because of our fishery along the coast, they were pushed inland, and a lot of the food resources weren't readily available as well. That's why we say Shannon Dith was the last known Beothuk, and with her, the culture as we know it, as we study it, has basically been no more.
And really hard situation for the Beothuk develops. The Europeans start to move up the coast out of St. John's, and they basically scare the Beothuk or force the Beothuk away from the coast.
And so what that meant was that a culture that had for hundreds of years been based around a very seasonal activity, very small, very manageable, suddenly fell apart.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but in the 1950s, the government brought in a resettlement program where they paid people to move in. You see, most people that came here to fish, naturally they settled on islands. I mean, we're any better to be a fisherman on an island right in the middle of the ocean, right in the water. So they would, but now after Confederation, they started demanding more services, and because we started to think, oh, we're getting all this money now because we're joining Canada. So they started demanding better service. So the government said, well, we can't afford to put roads and electricity and everything up to every little nook and cranny in Newfoundland, every island. So they paid the people to move in.
And so now they're basically trapped in the interior.
I remember my grandfather saying to me, Bill, mark these words, my son. This is the beginning of the end.
Once you can no longer live the way of life you were used to living, well, you're gonna have trouble, right?